just going to say, also happening in Australia, someone who needs to dial into reality is Anthony Albanese, who has said he will not consult Trump when deciding whether or not to recognise a Palestinian state. This is what he had to say earlier.
Will you talk to Donald Trump before you make a decision about Palestinian recognition?
We're a sovereign government, and Australia makes decisions on behalf of the Australian government. I have long said that I want to see Israelis and Palestinians to be able to live side by side in peace and security. And there are proposals, obviously, at the moment around and discussions taking place between world leaders. I think the entire international community is distressed by what we're seeing.
So Albanese has said he won't talk to Trump when deciding whether or not to recognise a Palestinian state. We know Trump has said any recognition of Palestine is an implicit reward for Hamas. Albanese still hasn't even had a face-to-face meeting with Trump, and now he's asserting, oh, I'm the tough guy on the international stage and can make these unilateral calls because we're a sovereign nation. I mean, how does he seriously think this is going to go?
Well, asserting Australia's sovereignty had nothing to do with the question. The question was not, will Donald Trump make Australia's decision for us? The question was, will you consult with Donald Trump before you make a decision as the Prime Minister of Australia? It's got zero to do with sovereignty. But Anthony Albanese seems to believe that he makes a virtue of not consulting Donald Trump. And that seems to be the message he's keen to communicate, which would be madness considering he's also said, Albanese, that we are a middle power that can't have much direct influence on events in the Middle East. Well, I tell you who does have direct influence. The United States are the major power brokers. So why would you not talk to Donald Trump before making a decision for Australia? And of course, the other thing is that we're in the middle of, well, we're not in the middle of, we've hardly even begun to build a relationship with the Trump administration. I don't see how failing to consult the Trump administration, our major ally, on such a massive international issue endears Anthony Albanese to Trump at a time when I would have thought he's trying to endear himself just a little bit.
Well, he's taking the bet that because the majority of Australians don't like Donald Trump, and they don't, which we see continually in the polling, that, you know, by looking like you're standing up to Trump, by saying, well, I'm not going to take his advice, that it will play well electorally. But, of course, the politically sensible thing to do is to talk to your allies frequently about things. And you don't always have to take their advice on board, but it's generally a good thing to do. I mean, he will say, oh, no, I've got other Western allies I'll talk to, like the UK and France, who will agree with me. But you can't just talk to people who agree with you all the time. You have to be able to make your point of view and prosecute your point of view to people who don't necessarily agree with you. And what it comes across as to me, and I know what he's trying to do, but it comes across to me as saying I'm too weak to advance the argument with a political leader with whom I disagree. Well, if you are steadfast in your position and you think it's the right thing to do, you shouldn't have any trouble picking up the phone to Donald Trump and having that conversation. Again, you're not always going to walk away agreeing with Donald Trump, but you as two world leaders should be able to have that discussion and duke it out at all times as close nations and allies without any concern about what it's going to look like afterwards. That's just par for the course.
And it's actually counterproductive to the negotiations that the US is trying to lead. They're trying to get a ceasefire. They're trying to get the hostages out. They're trying to find a path forward for the Middle East that involves peace, ideally, and not endless wars. And anything that removes pressure from Hamas, takes the foot off Hamas's neck, eases up on them, is counterproductive to the negotiations. So Albanese thinks he's so cool, asserting his authority, but in reality, this is actually delaying any prospect of peace.
Yeah, the US allies, Canada, Australia, France, the UK, are all working against what America is trying to achieve.